There's a lot of money in positioning yourself as an organization that's going to deal with haters who are in your neighborhood and haters who are around every corner, and skinheads, and the rise of the KKK, raised literally tens of millions of dollars based on that particular position, based upon fear and using white guilt and black pain in order to continue to raise this type of money on the basis of hate and fear.
Is hate on the rise in America? One might think so by accessing the hate map at the Southern Poverty Law Center's website. As of this reporting, there are allegedly 1,020 hate groups in this country. But before you consider heading off to the nearest bomb shelter to seek cover, critics note that a lot of this is way overinflated.
And they will count groups that might have 4 people in them as a hate group. I had talked to a guy who actually tracks hate groups for the FBI. He's a legitimate, you might say, a legitimate hate group collector. And he was pointing out that the SPLC, just, these little tiny groups. And some of these groups might be individuals. We don't know. The man, the dog, the computer, and the P.O. box. So they've done that all across the board, and they will count local affiliates of national groups, national Christian groups, as separate hate groups. Well, that makes the list long, so they've got 900 members or so on the hate group list right now.
The Southern Poverty Law Center lists David Duke of the KKK as an extremist of hate. And yet, just before him, they list David Barton, a friend of this ministry, who's a walking encyclopedia on America's Christian roots, as an alleged hater. Why? Because he happens to believe what the Bible says about homosexuality. After David Duke, they list David Horowitz of Front Page Magazine. He's a former communist turned conservative. He helped sound the alarm on the threat of radical Islam. And for that, he's a hater?
Well, one of the tactics of an organization like Southern Poverty Law Center, when they want to get their agenda across, is to mix true haters with faux haters, that is, ones who are made up in order to set a particular agenda. And so the agenda of the Southern Poverty Law Center is to take people who really aren't haters, who have just taken a position different from their own, and mixing them with true haters.
We have long been taught in Christendom that cults will have a little bit of truth that will then be distorted, but that truth will draw people in. The Southern Poverty Law Center might be doing something similar, having a little bit of truth by labeling some of the KKK or the David Dukes of this world as haters, but then they stretch beyond credibility the concept of haters by including true patriots, true Americans, outstanding Christians within that false label of haters.
At one time, Dr. Ben Carson, the renowned neurosurgeon who's now the director of HUD for the Trump administration, ended up on the Southern Poverty Law Center's profiles of extremists of hate.
A leader like Ben Carson, why would they put him on the hate list? Is it because of what the man has done? Has it been because how he has served not only in the medical community but outside the medical community? What has he done? Or is it because of what the man believes, the foundation that motivates his life of service? If they have a problem with that, then that's what got him on the hate list.
This is a very liberal organization, and they have an agenda. And their agenda is to come after conservative Christian groups. And the way they do that is they label those groups as hate groups.